Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the AFI project. Today, we are going to be taking a look at one of my all-time favorite movies, a true sci-fi classic no matter how you slice it. It's Blade Runner. This was directed by Ridley Scott. We all know who he is. It was based on the book written by Philip K. Dick called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and it starred Harrison Ford, Sean Young, and the late Rutger Hauer, may he rest in peace. And the plot of this movie is a little hard to describe, because, narratively speaking, there is a lot going on here. But the basic through line is this. This movie takes place in 2019 Los Angeles, and, well, let's just say it ain't looking too pretty. Even though it is the future, it is a dark and twisted future, with humanity barely surviving after several nuclear wars and a complete corporate oligarchy which is run by the Tyrell Corporation. The Tyrell Corporation created these human-like robots called replicants, and, well, they were supposed to be on Mars and used as slave labor. However, some replicants got off the reservation. Enter Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford. He works for the LAPD as a Blade Runner. He is a special detective meant to track down and eliminate replicants that have, well, gone off the reservation, for lack of a better term. The making of this movie is honestly worthy of an entire movie itself. As a matter of fact, I highly recommend that you all read this book, Future Noir, The Making of Blade Runner, written by Paul M. Salmon. This is a fantastic book. It's got a an interview from Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, and Sean Young, who all starred in the movie. And this is a pretty thick book. It pretty much highlights all of the makings of the movie, warts and all, pretty much. I want to make a more fuller video than what I'm going to make describing and talking about this movie in depth, and especially the backstage stuff, but to make a long story very short, when this movie got made, there was an initial cut, and everybody hated it. Test audiences hated it, and Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford both hated it. The first cut of Blade Runner was rife with studio interference, including extra scenes that were not necessary, and a last narration from Harrison Ford that Ford absolutely despised. And coming from a man whose default mode is, I would rather be anywhere else but here, that's really saying something. So then the director's cut was made and released, and the reception was about the same. To make a long story short, audiences' collective reaction was, It wasn't until the final cut, which was released in the late 90s, where people finally got to understand what Ridley Scott was trying to tell us. We all figured out we picked up what he was putting down, if you will. And the final cut has been used in all forms of physical media and been released to this very day, even up to the most recent 4K version. I go into this video knowing for a fact that there are a lot of people who do not like this movie. My friend Rachel over at Rachel's Reviews and co-host of the Hidden Gems podcast with me, she infamously calls this movie a headbanger movie because she sits there and she kind of lulls and she bangs her head to wake her up. And even I found a couple of reviews on Letterboxd. There was one that straight up called Ridley Scott a hack and a man that had no talent. Alien and Gladiator have both collectively entered the chat, but the point I'm trying to get at is that this movie, even to this day, has its critics. Heck, when I saw this movie for the first time for a college class, I thought it looked very nice. I loved the score. I was a big fan of Harrison Ford and still am to this day, so I dug it, but I really didn't understand it. It wasn't until subsequent rewatches that I finally picked up on what the movie was trying to get across. And I think this is one of those movies that gets better the more you watch it and the more you think about it. this is one of those movies that requires multiple viewings to truly understand it. For some movies that could be a flaw, but for Blade Runner it really works. And like I said, this is one of my all-time favorites. I make an effort to watch this movie at least once a year. As a matter of fact, before all the theaters shut down due to COVID, I actually got to see this on the big screen, the 4K remastered version, at my local luxury theater. And it was one of my favorite theater-going experiences that entire year. I could count them on pretty much one hand, but it was one of my favorites. And that has not changed. I love this movie. I think it's just a work of art. Firstly, I want to talk about the cinematography and the visuals and the score. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely outstanding. Go out of your way to buy the Blu-ray or the 4K of this movie, because it just looks absolutely splendid. You see the full squalor and glory, if that is a thing, of 2019 LA, and you just feel just dirty, like, walking through it with Deckard. And then there is the absolutely luminous score played by Vangelis. To best describe this is, well, future funk, pretty much. The movie combines blues and swing with electronic stuff. The score makes this entire movie. As a matter of fact, I found on YouTube, I found like a 10-hour mix of the main theme, Blade Runner Blues, but mixed in with city sounds and rain sounds. So if you close your eyes while you're listening to this, it sounds like you're literally in 2019 LA, in the world of Blade Runner. I don't know if that's a world I'd like to live in, but I suppose it's nice to visit, in a weird sense. I like to think I'm normal. And then there's the performances. I think this is one of Harrison Ford's very best performances. I can see why people would be kind of ho-hum on Harrison as an actor, but he actually does a really good job here. He starts on this case and he's thinking, just another Blade Runner job, let's do this. But then the more he pulls on this string, the more he realizes more about himself and the complex feelings that he feels about himself. And I guess that parlays into the whole is Rick Deckard a replicant thing. And if it wasn't obvious already by the sequel, Blade Runner 2049, I always believe Rick Deckard was a replicant. His eyes change, and, well, they pretty much blew the lid on that whole thing with 2049. I love Sean Young in here. I think she's really good. Some people have had issues with the chemistry between these two, and they don't like the relationship here. And I can understand why, but I've always chalked up to, narratively speaking, Deckard's going through a lot, and so is Sean Young's character here. This movie is technically described as a noir film, and Rick Deckard is definitely a Humphrey Bogart-style noir detective. And they don't wear white hats. They very much operate in shades of gray. One second they do something you like, and another thing they do something you hate. But they have no friends. They always follow their own moral compass. And then you have the late Rutger Hauer, who is the heart and soul of this whole thing. I will not go into spoilers here, but essentially, Rutger Hauer's character basically is the theme represented throughout this whole movie, in that how, in the future, these machines, who are meant by design to have no feelings and operate solely on logic, have slowly but surely become more feeling creatures than the human beings who are supposed to have these feelings. Even though Rutger Hauer's character is a bit of a monster in this movie, you feel sorry for him in his penultimate monologue where he lectures to Rick Deckard about how he's seen things that you would not believe, and this is what it is to be a slave. If you look up just one scene from this movie, go out of your way to find the Rutger Hauer scene. I believe it is on YouTube just by itself, so do yourself a favor and watch it. And at the end of the day, I can understand why this movie would definitely be disliked. It is a very slow movie for being 2 hours. The music is very soulful and very luminous, like I said. And due to the fact that even though this is a crime movie, there's not a ton of action here, I can understand why people would be not very interested in this. However, I have seen this movie more than a handful of times, and every time I find something new to love about it. I'm just happy that I live in a world where Blade Runner exists and Blade Runner 2049 also exists. That is still my favorite movie of 2017, and you can't change my mind on that. For now, at the very least, Blade Runner operates in its own little world where both of the movies that have been released, even though they did not do well financially, from a creative side of things, they were well ahead of their time. Blade Runner is a cult classic, bona fide, you can't change that, and 2049 is on its way to being right there with it. If you're hesitant about watching this movie, I do understand, but do give this movie a chance. I think you will be surprised. But that is all from me. Thank you all so much as always for watching. Next time on the AFI project, as we close in on the final 3 movies I have to review for this series, we're going back to the early 40s and talking about a musical about the life of George M. Cohan. It is Yankee Doodle Dandy. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.